This week on Christian World News.
Their mission is to connect people to heaven. And as a storyteller, I was like, that's unique.
Hillsong is much more than a worship band. Now it's the subject of a major motion picture. We go behind the scenes of the new movie, Hillsong, Let Hope Arise.
Plus, they've been called modern-day lepers. Syrian refugees are unwanted in the Middle East and the West. Many say evangelical Christians are their greatest friends.
And seeing Jerusalem the way Jesus saw it will take you along for this special trip back in time to the cradle of Christianity.
여러분 안녕하십니까? 크리스천 월드뉴스입니다. 호주의 힐송을 여러분도 잘 알고 계실 겁니다. 시작은 호주의 작은 교회였지만 어느덧 전 세계 12개 이상의 나라에서 찬양 집회를 인도하는 세계적인 워십팀이 됐는데요. 힐송의 찬양을 부르는 성도들만 매주 5천만 명에 달한다고 하네요. 바로 이 힐송 워십의 이야기를 담은 영화가 제작됐습니다. 힐송, Let Hope Rise, 오늘 첫 소식으로 함께 만나보시죠.
What treasure waits within your skies? This gift of freedom, gold can't buy.
They call themselves a ragtag collection of musicians, but the results tell a different story. Hillsong United songs are sung in 60 different languages, and the band has sold more than 17 million albums.
Not that it was we just set out to write songs that our friends would listen to and like, so we would listen to bands that we liked and then, want to make music that kind of was culturally relevant, I guess. And then, you couldn't have scripted how this has happened, and we never set out to tour the world and to make music full time, but it's just been one step after the other of trusting God.
He used to do stuff like that, but he doesn't anymore.
While someone might not have scripted the story, the band's rise to chart-topping musicians is told on screen in the feature film, Hillsong, Let Hope Rise.
It's not about a church or about what we do with writing songs or making music or serving God. It's the story of who God is, that he loves ordinary people, he loves everybody, and that he has a plan for everybody, and everybody on earth is invited into his story.
What's that? I was just writing a line.
The Hillsong story got the attention of director Michael John Warren, the mind behind rap giants Jay-Z's Fade to Black, and Nicki Minaj's My Time Now. And he is not a Christian.
I'm a music nerd. I love music more than I love film.
So you go from doing films on Jay-Z and Nicki Minaj to Hillsong?
Yeah.
Natural progression?
Yeah, actually. With music films, the story is a little bit challenging, because what's really at stake for a pop artist? And the answer is, they're trying to stay hot. They're trying to prove they're the best rapper. There's a lot of drama there. And certainly with an artist like Nicki, there's just drama. Thank God. And for them, with Hillsong, for me, I saw a unique story. Their mission is to connect people to heaven. And as a storyteller, I was like, that's unique.
Even though an estimated 50 million churchgoers sing Hillsong's music each week, Hollywood's interest still surprises band members.
I know that when they first said a movie about Hillsong United, you guys said, why make a movie about us? So now that we've got it, what do you think?
Kind of the same. Is anyone going to want to watch it?
Yeah. I love that the message of the things that we actually care about, the thing that we want to encourage people the most is actually threaded throughout the film. And I think Hillsong Let Hope Rise it's a film that has a message of hope.
That uplifting message rings out in the story of how singer Taya Smith became part of the band.
Taya, I guess one of the things that surprised me in the film is you arrive in Sydney with $200 and just, Lord, use me?
Yeah, it was a faith step. It was a faith step. Moved out of home, felt like it was the right time, even though, like you said, I only had $200 in the bank, but I was just trusting God with it, and turns out it was the best move I could have ever made, and it was like God's timing.
In many ways, the band's success story echoes that of Hillsong Church.
When we started a church on the outskirts of Sydney, Australia, we were just thinking about people coming back next week, really. Yeah, I've always been a visionary, but our whole story's been a grace story.
One that points upward to heaven.
My heart beating, my soul breathing. I found my life when I laid it down.
And that's the entire point of the film.
I just think when people can walk into an atmosphere like that and sense God's presence, their eyes are lifted that there's probably more to this world than they realise.
Take me deeper than my feet could ever wander, and my faith will be made stronger in the presence of my Savior.
Doing this film change you in any way?
Absolutely. Being around people like that is meaningful, and it helped me become a better person. Everyone asks me, all my non-Christian friends are like, "Are you saved?" I'm like, "No, I'm not. I haven't been saved, but I'm a better person now, and I feel like I have. I feel like you take what I feel like I have like a role model, sort of how to treat people and how to be more loving."
For an unbeliever, that's a seed planted.
시리아 내전은 끝났지만 시리아를 떠나는 국민들은 줄지 않고 있습니다. 난민 문제도 심각한데요. 이제는 시리아를 위해 행동을 취해야 할 때라고 종교 지도자들은 소리 높여 말합니다. 종교와 지역, 연합단체들이 움직여야 한다는 거죠. 함께 만나보시죠.
As more and more Syrians flee civil war, concerns over how and where to care for them grows. It's a moral, political, and security issue with no easy solutions.
And I can't forget, and I'll never forget, that Jesus too was a refugee. He was a refugee. He had to go to Egypt, you may recall. And what would have happened if they wouldn't have accepted him?
Congressman Vargas joined a coalition of groups calling on President Obama and Congress to do more. They delivered 10,000 signed postcards to Republican leaders, asking them to increase humanitarian aid by 30%, double the number of refugees the U.S. accepts, and guarantee the right to work and opportunity for education for at least 1 million more refugees.
This is not just a moral crisis that we face as a country and as a people. It's a political crisis worldwide. Refugees are not a temporary problem. It is a permanent problem. Those of us who think, well, in a couple of years it'll be over, wrong.
Just weeks ago, America welcomed her 10,000th refugee from Syria, meeting a goal set by President Obama. Going forward, the president wants the U.S. to accept 110,000 refugees, including 40,000 from the Middle East and South Asia. Many Americans are concerned terrorist or radicalized refugees will slip into the country. But New Jersey Congressman Bill Pascrell suggests something else is at play.
This is home-baked prejudice. There's no other way to call it. Let's call it the way it is.
And Europe has to do the same. And it's not facing that responsibility. The bigotry, the right-wing nativism and xenophobia that is sweeping Europe and at our own country is a problem not of temporary delay. It's one we got to confront head on.
As Jews, we know what it is to be victims of prejudice and to be excluded, disrespected, and targeted because of our religious identity.
As the U.S. prepares to open its doors to more than 100,000 refugees from around the world, many countries accept none or very few refugees from Syria, including many Muslim countries in the Persian Gulf like Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and the United Arab Emirates. Next week, President Obama joins world leaders at the United Nations, where he'll encourage them to step up and help the Syrian people. Jennifer Wishon, CBN News, Washington.
복음주의 기독교 단체 월드 릴리프는 미국 내에 있는 난민들의 정착을 돕고 있는데요. 미국이 당면한 난민 문제 어떻게 풀어가야 할지 월드 릴리프의 스콧 알베이터 대표를 만나 이야기 들어봤습니다.
Since 9/11, 800,000 refugees have been resettled in the U.S., and we don't have a known single case of domestic terrorism from a refugee. And with the really lengthy due diligence process that exists, we have a good record of due diligence and protecting our homeland, even as we've been compassionate.
So a lot of people have criticized President Obama, saying that he's only accepting Muslim refugees, despite the fact that 10% of the population of Syria is Christian. And this year alone, we've accepted 11,000 Syrian refugees, and only 56 of them have been Christian. What do you think about, are those complaints warranted, or?
Well, if you look at those numbers all by themselves, you would say, boy, there's a question to be asked there, and it's a reasonable question. But if you pull out the lens a little bit and look at the context, 39% of the refugees that have been resettled from the Middle East since 2001 have been Christians. And part of the issue with the Syrians is that the very thing that we want, which is really careful due diligence, which takes a year to a year and a half to do, means that many of those Syrian Christians who were not part of that crisis at that point in time haven't entered through that whole process yet. Also, fortunately, many of the Syrian Christians have been able to find refuge with other Christian communities in Europe and other places in the Middle East, so they have been a less vulnerable population in many cases.
Who are the refugees coming over, and what do you think are some of the biggest conceptions Americans have about them?
The refugees that are coming over are moms and kids, in some cases dads, that are coming out of families just like yours and mine, where they long to have a place called home, and that home has been taken from them. Interesting thing that we find among refugees is many of them will carry their house keys with them yet. They're not going back home. They probably know that, but there's something in them, just like in us, that says, but I want to go home. They're not looking to be resettled. They don't want to be in a different land. They want to go home to the land and the community and the culture that they're a part of, but it's not available to them. So I think one of the big misconceptions is that they're looking for just simply a chance to better themselves economically. That may happen. It may not. What they're really looking for is a chance to survive, because if they stay where they are, they face death from the very people that we are trying to stop as well. As a friend of mine said, we have to be careful not to punish the victims of ISIS for the sins of ISIS.
What are some of the biggest needs that you all have as an organization?
I want you to imagine the picture of a refugee coming in on an airplane, not speaking the language, being frightened about what they will find, having no sense of what their visible support is going to be. And they come off the airplane and they are met by a group of people from a local church. We call them Good Neighbor Teams. They take them out to the van where they have gathered other people, including people from their homeland who speak their language. They take them to the apartment that's been furnished by the local church with the help of World Relief. They show them the groceries that they have put in their refrigerators. They tell them that they'll be back to help them get signed up for English as a second language courses. They'll talk to them about the ability to get into job training, and they'll say, and by the way, we have a community called our church, and our arms are wide open to you. Can you imagine what that means to someone? Jesus was very clear. He said, do to others what you would have done to you. What would I want done if the bottom had fallen out of my life? If I had escaped my homeland, my house was in rubbles, I might not even have all my children, or my husband or my wife, but I've escaped with what I have. What would I want done to me? We're looking for people who will say, I know what I would want done, and I'm prepared to do it for others. Many of us care deeply about unreached people groups. And what God has done in this season is He has said, I'm bringing them to you. And the fear is that we'll pull up the welcome mat. And we'll say, well, thank you, Lord, but no. We'll maybe send a few people over to them, but we're going to resist the ones that you're sending to us.
2000년 전 예수님이 이 땅에 오셨을 때 예루살렘의 모습은 어땠을까? 기독교인이라면 꼭 한번 가보고 싶은 곳, 바로 이스라엘 성지인데요. 다양한 유물들을 통해 예수님의 시대를 좀 더 자세히 만날 수 있는 곳이기도 하죠. 이스라엘로 함께 떠나보실까요?
Have you ever wondered what Jerusalem looked like 2,000 years ago when Jesus walked the earth? This giant model of Jerusalem from the Second Jewish Temple period begins the Cradle of Christianity tour. Visitors to the Israel Museum see artifacts that will enhance stories from the Bible.
This is Jerusalem that Jesus knew. This is Jerusalem that Herod the Great built.
Senior curator David Meverock said the model will give Christians a better perspective of specific areas mentioned in Scripture.
Right behind me is the Temple and the Temple Mount, the largest monument in the city. The model, built in a scale of 1 to 50, shows these important sites that Jesus goes through. For instance, on my left are the pools of Bethesda, where Jesus performs one of his miracles of healing. It's all in the surrounding of this city, which has only one temple for one God.
The famous shrine of the book housing the Dead Sea Scrolls is the next stop. The scrolls include the oldest copies of books of the Hebrew Bible. And then there's the Temple Mount.
We still have the supporting walls of the Temple Mount. The Wailing Wall is the western wall of the support of this huge project. But only very few finds were left from the buildings itself.
Two important artifacts from there are part of the tour.
One of them is an inscription in Hebrew, a sign for the priest to stand and blow the horn for the entrance of Saturday, meaning the time to cease work, and again at the exit of Saturday when you can resume work. The other sign is in Greek. It is the perimeter that surrounded the temple itself in the Temple Mount, with signs in Greek and in Latin forbidding Gentiles to enter the temple itself.
According to Meverock, it's rare to find artifacts that directly relate to historical figures.
In the case of the trial and crucifixion of Jesus, we've been extremely lucky. 3 finds relate directly to the story and to the details, and 2 of them relate directly to the most important people in these final days of Jesus.
One is an ossuary, a burial bone box inscribed with Joseph, son of Caiaphas, the high priest.
We are almost 100% sure that this is the Caiaphas that we know from the stories in the New Testament, the high priest that arrests Jesus and turns him into the Romans for his trial.
The second is a stone bearing the name of Pontius Pilate. And perhaps the most interesting artifact for Christians is evidence of the Roman practice of crucifixion, found in a bone box.
This is the only find in the whole world of actual crucifixion.
And what do visitors have to say?
Just seeing the artifacts made it come alive, and to see what I've read about made it come alive in my life.
To see so many artifacts of world history and of our Christian faith in one place so quickly, and to be able to comprehend it so quickly is just really amazing, and it really confirms our faith. It confirms what the Bible teaches us, and teaches us the place of our Christian faith within world history context. It's outstanding.
Chris Mitchell, CBN News, the Israel Museum, Jerusalem.
한편 CBN 재난구호팀은 홍수 피해를 입은 중국인들을 돕기 위해 나섰습니다.
Heavy rains caused disastrous flooding only 2 hours away from China's capital city. 12 villages near Xingtai were destroyed. Local farmers felt hopeless and heartbroken.
We just built the new farmhouse before the flooding. I can't believe it's all gone. Right now we have to sleep at different places. All of my farmland has been washed away.
Water and electricity have been cut off at schools, and children are forced to study outside their classrooms. Parents are desperate for help and comfort. In the midst of these challenges, Cbn China, in partnership with Xingtai Church, brought hope and love to the city. 11 people traveled to 4 villages, delivering food and tools to over 100 affected families. The families expressed happiness and relief as they lined up to receive the food and the tools they will use to rebuild their houses. They praised CBN's effort and dedication.
I can't believe what CBN brought to us. I'm very surprised to see all the trucks are full of food and stuff to help us. Thank you, CBN. Thank you.
In addition, the CBN China team will partner with other local churches to develop a long-term plan.
They're introducing the Chinese flood victims to Jesus Christ and helping them to restart their lives. Mengfei Li for CBN News.
오늘 준비한 소식은 여기까지입니다. 저는 다음 주에 다시 찾아오겠습니다. 시청해주신 여러분 고맙습니다.